The Baltimore Ravens have mastered the art of choking like no other team I've seen in recent memory. Since 2022, the Ravens have blown more double-digit fourth quarter leads than any other team in the league. And specifically to head coach John Harbaugh, he has more blown double-digit fourth quarter leads since 1991 than any other coach of all time. But why does this keep happening to the Ravens? They have a future Hall of Fame quarterback in Lamar Jackson. They have a Super Bowl winning head coach. It just does not add up why they keep blowing these games. But for whatever reason, we keep seeing this same team blow lead after lead in the fourth quarter, and we saw it again this past Sunday night against the Buffalo Bills on primetime. But to really begin to see the pattern of these chokes, we have to go all the way back to 2022, September 18th against the Miami Dolphins, week 2 of the NFL season. The Ravens in this game had a 35-14 lead in the fourth quarter, which was a 21-point advantage, and 99.9% of times, teams that have that lead that late in the game are going to win. But what ended up happening the next 15 minutes in that fourth quarter went down as one of the worst chokes in NFL history. The Miami Dolphins, led by Tua Tagovailoa and Tyreek Hill getting wide open continuously down the field against their secondary, mounted a huge comeback in which they won 42-38 on the road. Tua Tagovailoa had the game of his life, throwing for 469 yards and 6 touchdowns, outdueling Lamar Jackson in this matchup. And you would think that the Ravens would learn from this mistake and really be error-free in terms of choking the rest of the season. But it wasn't even a month later, on October 2nd against the Buffalo Bills, when the Ravens had a 20-3 lead at halftime. So again, a 3-possession game. And what happened? The Ravens blew it once again. This time it was really the Ravens offense. They were unable to score a single point in the second half due to turnovers and just a lack of offensive consistency. And kind of similarly to what we saw this past Sunday, the Bills offense and Josh Allen got rolling, and it was too little too late for the Ravens to escape with the win. But once again, this was not the only massive choke that the Ravens had this season. We then go to October 16th against the New York Giants just 2 weeks later, and the Ravens were up 20-10 against Daniel Jones and a rookie head coach in Brian Daboll. And what do you know? The Giants came back and won this game 24-20, reinforcing the idea that Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh cannot close out these games and escape with the win. But guess what? I don't know if you're going to believe this, but the Ravens choked again in this 2022 season. We now move to November 27th against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And going into the fourth quarter, the Ravens held a 27-20 lead with about 2 minutes left to go in the game. The Jaguars had no timeouts in their final drive, but despite that, Trevor Lawrence led a dramatic drive, including a conversion on 3rd and 21 to Christian Kirk. And after Marvin Jones scored a touchdown and a 2-point conversion pass to Zay Jones, Jacksonville took the lead 28-27, and Baltimore, with no time left, attempted a 67-yard field goal that fell short, and they blew another game. While 2022 was definitely the most egregious season of the Baltimore Ravens choking, we really see this now every single year with them. We now move to week 10 on November 12th, 2023 against the Cleveland Browns and Deshaun Watson at home in Baltimore. The Ravens had a 31-17 lead in that fourth quarter, but again, much like we've seen from this Ravens defense, they really struggled to stop at the time one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. The Browns would score 2 touchdowns in 41 seconds and walk off with the game-winning field goal to win 33-31 on the road. As I just mentioned, Deshaun Watson led this comeback, and he was viewed at the time as one of the worst quarterbacks in the league, and this game particularly is viewed as maybe the best he played in a Browns uniform. And now last season in 2024, one of the more embarrassing ones as well was against the Las Vegas Raiders in week 2. Again at home, the Ravens had a 10-point lead, 23-13 in the fourth quarter, and Gardner Minshew led a miraculous comeback at Baltimore to again blow a huge fourth quarter lead for Baltimore. This time it was really an entire team effort. Penalties piled up late, which hurt the momentum of the team. Offensive drives stalled out multiple 3-and-outs. There were defensive lapses that felt like they let up. The Raiders made clutch plays and rallied for those 13 unanswered points. And again, you would think they would correct these issues the rest of the season and not let these chokes creep up again. But about a month later, on October 27th against the Cleveland Browns, they again held a lead late in the game as Derrick Henry rushed for a touchdown with just 2 minutes and 36 seconds left. The Browns, led by Jameis Winston, then led down the field with a go-ahead score with less than 1 minute to go. Lamar Jackson tried to bring the Ravens down the field to win the game, but again, just came up a little bit short, and the Ravens blew yet another game with the lead late in the fourth quarter. And now back to current day and what happened this past weekend. The Ravens held a 40-25 lead over the Bills in the fourth quarter. They really had all the momentum in this game. The Bills could not stop Derrick Henry. He rushed for over 170 yards and a couple of touchdowns. Lamar Jackson was doing his superhuman plays where nobody could tackle him behind the line of scrimmage. And while the Ravens defense was allowing Josh Allen and the Bills offense to stay within striking distance the entire game, it was very apparent that the Bills had a much harder time scoring against this Ravens defense. Of course, that was until the end of the fourth quarter. And once again for Baltimore, I really don't think you can pinpoint one area of the team on why they blew this game. The meltdown all begins after a Derrick Henry long touchdown run when the Ravens made it 40-25 with 11 minutes and 42 seconds to go. Rookie kicker Tyler Loop came onto the field to convert the extra point, where it actually hit off the upright and was no good. So instead of it being a 16-point game and the Bills offense having to convert 2 touchdowns and 2 two-point conversions, now they only had to convert 1. And actually, the next defensive possession for the Ravens, they forced the Bills to punt the football back. So the Ravens had the football up 15 points at the 35-yard line with 9 minutes left to go in the game. But Lamar Jackson and the Ravens offense were unable to get one singular first down to keep the clock moving. So Josh Allen and the Bills got the football back, went right down the field and scored a touchdown with less than 4 minutes to go. So now it was an 8-point game and the pressure began to mount for this Ravens offense because they had to get a couple of first downs to run out the clock. Lamar began the possession with a very long run to set the Ravens up fairly nicely inside the 40, but then we arrived to our second culprit for this choke in Derrick Henry, one of the best running backs we've ever seen. Henry only had 20 fumbles in his 10-year career before this point, but this turned out to be his 21st. He got the handoff and there was instant pressure in the backfield. The ball was peanut punched out and the Bills took over in Ravens territory with 3 minutes to go, down by 8 points. A few plays later, the Bills would score on a Josh Allen run, but they still had to get the 2-point conversion to tie this game. But after great coverage from Nate Wiggins, he broke up the pass and the Bills were still down 2 points with less than 2 minutes to go. So now the game was in the offense's and Lamar Jackson's hands. If they just got one first down, this game was going to be over and they could run out the remainder of the clock. Much like the Ravens often do in these situations, they went 3 and out and decided not to go for it on 4th and short, which I do not agree with, punting the ball back to Josh Allen. And we know what happened from there. The Bills walked it off with a 38-yard field goal, and we witnessed another colossal Ravens collapse on national TV. And the big question everybody's asking now is, why does this continue to happen, and where do the Ravens go from here? The thing that is really interesting about all of these collapses is there isn't one area of the team that continues to just fail. Some games it's the defense, other games it's the special teams, and other times it's Lamar Jackson or the Ravens offense. But I think the culprit that deserves the most criticism is head coach John Harbaugh, because at the end of the day, this is his football team. He oversees all of those operations and his team just cannot continue to blow these leads. And to a certain extent, while they choke these games in the regular season, they aren't necessarily blowing leads in the playoffs, but they do come up short and don't play their best in the biggest spots. A lot of people blame Lamar Jackson for that, but even last year in the playoffs against the Bills, it was Mark Andrews who could not hold on to the football. So it just seems like time and time again, something always new is going wrong with this Ravens team in the biggest spots, and that is a reflection of their head coach. I'm not somebody that believes that John Harbaugh should be fired because he is a Super Bowl winning head coach. He is one of the best in the league in my opinion, but there's no doubt about it, if the Ravens keep blowing these massive leads and keep coming up short in the playoffs, he's going to be ultimately the one that's held responsible. It's widely viewed that the Ravens have one of the most talented rosters in the entire league, and they have good coordinators on offense and defense. And for Ravens fans, I really do get the frustration. This is practically torture watching your team play great for 3 quarters of football, and then you just witness these collapses over and over again. It really hasn't mattered how good Lamar Jackson looks early on. It doesn't matter how well the defense plays in the first half. The fourth quarter arrives, and then the doubt has begun to creep in year after year. At the end of the day, this Ravens franchise has been too successful to have earned this reputation, and it has to come to an end soon, or there are going to be heads that roll. Let me know in the comment section below, how do you think the Ravens fix this, and who should be responsible if they can't? Subscribe to the channel if you are new, drop a like on the video if you did enjoy it, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in my next one.